Hey there, folks. Welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture. And today we're going to be talking about the newest project from Jaime Wyatt called Felony Blues. But first, let's talk a little about the prison industrial complex. And believe it or not, it is a relevant topic to my content, specifically in that a lot of the music that I cover, and not just because I've occasionally been told that I remind some people of John Oliver on Last Week Tonight. Look, I'm extremely flattered, especially with the special comments, but he actually has production value and humor in order to back up his analysis. In this case, though, we're going to be talking about how it relates to music and artists, because beyond the outlaw context or the occasional themes, we should consider necessity in the modern age. I mean, think about it. When you consider the percentage of the population that is incarcerated, especially for trumped up drug offenses, as if that's popular among musicians, am I right? And the fact that many companies will disqualify people based upon convictions during background checks, sometimes the whole DIY approach to the creation of art and music might be the only way to scrounge up and make a little bit of money. Now, it's not going to say that it's a method for everyone. Music equipment is far from cheap, and not everyone has the means or talent to step into that arena. It might not exactly be a good idea if you're not passionate about it, but as a possible path to avoid recidivism and find a new career, it's not a bad idea, especially if you can tell the story of your experience, which might be all the more relevant nowadays. And what's also notable is the historical precedent. Now, many will make the obvious connection to hip-hop, but in one of many parallels between genres, these themes have also been rooted in country music pretty much for decades, albeit a lot less so nowadays in the mainstream. Hell, if you read about how many times the greats in country were either in and out of jail because of their own wild lives, I'm always a little bit surprised that we don't see more of these themes continue, even in indie country, especially as the population percentage of incarceration continues to rise, and with the growth and evolution of the truly horrible modern court and prison experience, you would think that'd be fertile ground for a lot of great country. So onto the indie scene comes Jaime Wyatt, who once had a few record deals that went nowhere before running afoul of the law and actually spending time in prison herself. And since she couldn't find conventional work after getting out, she turned to making country music and put together a few projects along with some soundtrack work, with her first album From Outer Space coming out in 2015, and now this, aiming to tell a little bit more of her story. At 7 tracks, it's a pretty lean affair, but the critical acclaim it was receiving, to say nothing of the themes that could feel all the more relevant in modern America, specifically right now, meant that I had a vested interest in really digging into this. I was curious. So on this project, on Felony Blues, did Jaime Wyatt deliver? Well, here's the funny thing. In going back to look up From Outer Space, I also discovered that 2 songs from that project actually wound up on this one. So we're really only looking at 5 new songs, which is actually 4 new songs because one of these is actually a cover. In other words, it almost feels like I'm doing an EP review here, but at the same time, it's such a damn fantastic little project all the same. The sort of a lean and effective album that might not dig into the overall concept as much as I was otherwise expecting or hoping, but was still plenty enjoyable and shows a lot of promise going forward. This is a little great project, and I also think it might have a shot at being one of the best of 2017, especially considering 2017's been a little slow. And the funny thing is that it gets there in the way that the best country projects do. Crisp, hook-driven, smartly written, and delivered material that doesn't shy away from a reality while still embracing a definitive style, where in the case for Jaime Wyatt, it's the California Bakersfield sound popularized by Merle Haggard and Buck Owens. And I'll be blunt, I love a lot of these tones in country, especially on this album. Rich and pedal steel melodies that linger over a weathered, textured mix that isn't afraid to pick up some fiddle, hints of jaunty piano and organ, and a surprisingly well-defined bass line against more of the acoustic texture. And yet, what surprised me is that for as old school as this record might be in some of the compositions, it doesn't feel the need to drown itself in lo-fi distortion or embrace a lot of the burnished Dave Cobb-esque indie country style. The prominent pedal steel and sharp edges of the electric guitar, they always have enough melodic interplay to keep the mix interesting and textured, and add just enough supple support to the well-placed multi-tracking to keep the hooks moving. This is a bit of a rougher country album, but it works in that vein, because my god, these hooks, these melodies are ridiculously on point. From the bass-driven electric bite and pedal seal of Wishing Well, to the more traditional fiddle-driven rollick of Wasco, to the more supple acoustics and pedal steel that anchor the ballad Giving Back the Best of Me, to the saloon piano accents that lead to the bass stomp chorus of Stone Hotel, and it's by far one of the best hooks that I've heard thus far in 2017. And for the Merle Haggard cover that closes out the album with the prominent pedal steel and the piano that holds the melody, hell, I dare say the cover anchors itself in slightly more ramshackle tones that might be a better fit than Merle's cleaner, more elegant pianos and strings, say nothing of some better pacing on this version. The only song I'm not wild about is Your Loving Saves Me, but even still, it's a good song with a sharp guitar solo, just not having the same character in the production as some of the others. But on the flip side, when you consider the stunning piano, bass, pedal steel, and gentle touches of fiddle that holds together From Outer Space, one of the holdovers from that 2015 album, well, as I mentioned on Twitter, I've always had a soft spot for country songs that incorporate space imagery, and this is easily one of the best I've heard since probably Casualties of Cool. Yes, it's that good. Of course, this is all anchored by Jaime Wyatt herself, and yeah, she's one hell of a singer, capable of plaintive sultriness that does wonders for giving her huskier tones real gravitas, with just enough multi-tracking to lend her breathier tones some real swell on the hooks of Wishing Well, Stone Motel, and From Outer Space. Her vocal timbre and delivery reminds me a little bit of Lindy Ortega or Angel Olsen, but deeper, a little bit more rich and full, but still capable of reaching those higher notes with an ease that feels incredibly natural. And on songs like Stone Motel, she proves plenty capable of getting fiery in the best possible way, which kind of makes sense given the content, because on the story she tells on this record, that's the one where she, destitute and desperate, lands up in jail. Yeah, this is where we're gonna have to talk about the lyrics and themes, and here's the thing. As much as I might want for a deeper concept record surrounding some of her experiences, in truth, the jail time only really lends directly to Stone Hotel and Wasco. The latter a slightly more broad sketch of a girl planning to reunite with her boyfriend when he gets out, to embrace a life that'll probably lead right back to prison for the both of them. But in truth, most of these tracks play to some pretty standard country tropes, like the drunken, lonely hookups and misery and gin, to the frustrated chase and plenty of failures on Wishin' Well, from the more straightforward but detailed love song of Giving Back the Best of Me, touched with the bourbon and smoke that really comes through in the lyrics, to the cosmic message of love across the stars on From Outer Space. It really is that space-age country love song. And yeah, I'd be stretching to say that if there's a firm theme here across the album, but there is a sense of practical agency that drives a lot of the writing that I really like. Not so much blunt, but honest all the same, acknowledging the past and just plowing forward, fiercely driven, but on songs like Your Lovin' Saves Me, which is more about the connection of friends more than a lover or a god, just not needlessly sacrificing those times. These are some hardened stories to be sure, but not needlessly so or exaggerated or melodramatic, and Wyatt plays exasperated frustration so damn well that the history gives her artistic persona a lot of real color. Even the broader stories, you can pretty much buy into them. In short, I enjoyed the hell out of this album, and it easily stands at a shot of being one of my favorite country albums thus far this year. I do think it's a little bit short when it comes to new original material. It really does play a little like an EP, and I do think it could have afforded to hit a little bit harder on some of the darker themes, but I still think it's a damn great project all the same, and one that definitely solidifies Jaime Wyatt in indie country right now. We should be hearing more from her. For me, it's a very strong 8 out of 10, and for sure a recommendation, especially if you want to hear a talent that I can imagine will attract a lot more attention in the next couple of years if she keeps up this sort of momentum. There might be darkness in her past, but if Jaime Wyatt can translate it to songs that are this great, I definitely want to hear more. So check this out. You won't regret it. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you'd like to like and subscribe, I'd be more than grateful. I got the poll up here, so for those few of you who have heard this album, there's your opportunity to vote on it. And if you guys want to get this record, the link is in the description below. I highly recommend you do. Beyond that, anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. Or if you guys want to get more involved in my schedule, the link to my Patreon is right here, where 3 times a week you guys get to vote on my schedule, and once a week for the higher Patreon contributors, you guys get to add records to my schedule. So all you guys who keep sending me emails wanting me to review your albums, there's a guaranteed way I can talk about them. But until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.